Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sustainable Supply Chain Podcast. My name is Tom Raftery, and with me on the show today, I have my special guest, Amir. Amir, welcome to the podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here. I like to call myself a serial problem solver. I've been in tech for many, many years, trying to constantly find some massive problems, come with a clever idea to solve it, build an incredible team and culture, and then deliver value to our clients, measurable value. And I've been lucky enough to have I made many mistakes, don't get me wrong, and plenty of failures, but I got several times I got it right. So I've been very, very fortunate to lead 4 tech companies to significant outcomes prior to this one. And there's a great Latin phrase that I'm poorly going to translate to English that says that every step that I took in my life brought me to here and now. And that's exactly what I do in Iola right now.
So, for people who are unaware, Amir, what is Iola?
Iola, first of all, it's not aioli or anything else that you can eat. It actually stands for AI Operating Layer. That's what the name stands for. And actually, when I'm teasing people, and you can see that in our logo, when you look at the AIOLA, the most important letter is not A or I. It's actually the O in the middle. And it's not an O. It's a fat intelligence loop, ever green and ever learning. And that's really the essence about what we do here. AI, the most used and abused letters in the English language at present time. It's been very sexy and very trendy, and everybody talks about, 2023 was the year of Gen AI, and a lot of great questions about what's going to happen in 2024. And the consensus so far indicates that 2024 is going to be another banner year, but the hype will be gone. And it's going to be a very practical, very sober approach when people are looking, okay, great, but how this AI can help me in my business? How can AI use to impact my bottom line, my EBITDA? And that's exactly what we do. So at the end of the day, what we're doing in Iola from the very beginning is the ability to connect the power of AI to the masses. So anyone, regardless of where you are in your digital transformation journey or wherever you are, you can use it tomorrow morning with taking care of the most important part in communication, which is speech. Speech, by far, is the most natural way, the most effective way, the richest, fastest, colorful. You can add many more adjectives about how superior speech is to any other communication means. But when it comes to processes right now, when it comes to AI, speech is rarely used for AI because the lack of accuracy, the poor accuracy, which comes from specific languages, specific accents, specific acoustic environment, but above all, when you deal with business or industrial processes, those are heavy on jargon of a specific industry in a specific location. And in all fairness, there's no technology off the shelf that was able to handle it. So what Iola did, and this is really, if I put a title on top of it, we were able to take any language, any accent, any acoustic environment, and any specific jargon. And while everybody talks today about LLMs, large language models, et cetera, one day I was looking at my coffee and I say, you know what? I don't need to boil the ocean in order to make coffee. So I don't need to go and brute force and then try to narrow down to specific. I'm originally from Israel, and, the first language I learned was Hebrew, and the most biblical language. And in Hebrew, we do everything in the wrong direction. We write it from right to left. Right. So I decided to look at it in the wrong, kidding aside, say, hey, what if I'm going to start with a specific workflow, with a specific process, as narrow as it gets? And actually, I don't need large language models. All I need is that specific workflow. And I'll take it. And I use that and use generative AI to generate millions of samples, synthetic samples of that specific workflow that actually will eventually allow me with Jargonic, which is the platform we build, to take that process and build a language model specifically for that specific workflow, specifically in that jargon, specifically in the very specific acoustic environment, accent, and language, and automate the process. So that's what we have done, and this is a massive, massive development, patents associated, but we completely, there's a great article that came out by Vinod Kushla last Friday.
Right.
Who talks about the importance of speech for AI, and talking about the fact that eventually every human-machine interface will be voice first. Talks about that, once an organization will find out that the process that previously took 3 minutes to complete can be done in 15 seconds by speech, it's going to change everything. And eventually, and it's a tall order, that speech first, voice first, actually going to democratize the use of technology, because it will allow to anyone with any device at any environment to do it. And we do it not just what Mr. Kushner said, and it's very, very accurate, but actually what we're doing on top of it, we didn't stop here. We actually using the paradigm shift to unlock the opportunity to digitize previously undigitized industries and sectors. And that's the reason we are very excited about what we do here.
Okay, we'll come to that in a second. But first, I just want to be a little bit skeptical, I guess, because we're all used to voice assistants, the likes of, I don't want to say their names now in case I trigger them on people's devices who are listening, but you know what I'm talking about, the ones from Apple and Amazon and Google, etc. The results from them are mixed at best, to to put it mildly. So how have you improved on that? I mean, if I were to ask Iola, you know, the results of Saturday's Six Nations rugby match, would it know that? I'm guessing not, because it's not a sports AI. But, you know, if I ask that to the other assistants, the chances are they would say, I'll have to send you to the web to look for that, or something similar.
It's a great question, Tom, and thank you for asking it, because, you know, welcome to my world. Try to speak to one of those systems with an Israeli accent. Good luck. Okay. So been there, done that, but kidding aside again, actually, ASR, automatic speech recognition, it's been around the world for dozens of years. And one of the things whenever I try to solve a massive problem is trying to avoid reinventing the wheel. Whatever is available off the shelf, I'll take it. When I came with that concept, and I'll share with you how I got to that point, because initially my thinking was about actually sales. You know, whenever you meet a client, you or any salesperson will be exposed to a tremendous amount of critical human intelligence. Client needs, competitors, pricing, DNA, etc. There's no argument that there's no other point in time when you're exposed to so much critical information. Then ask yourself a question, how much of that is actually being captured? And then you scratch your head and say very little. CRM has been around the world since 1999. Commercially, phenomenal success. Operationally, if I may say so, a colossal failure. I haven't found a single person who said, oh my God, Tom, I'm so excited, I'm going to log into Salesforce or any other CRM. People do it because they have to, not because they want to. They treat it as a chore, and therefore it's reflected in a quality, quantity, timing. So you build this massive IT infrastructure, and then a small stream of dirty water flying through the pipe. So what have we done? So the initial concept I had in mind, say, oh, I just spoke to Tom. We talk about his beautiful head. And as I'm walking right now, I know he's from Cork and he still lives there. And now he lives in Valencia and so on in Spain. But before I forget, when I walk through the elevator in natural language, I'm telling Iola what I just learned. Iola will grab it, will integrate it to the CRM of choice, and create this evergreen, ever-learning flow. And actually, Tom, that idea took off like there's no tomorrow. 2-3 months later, I'm traveling February 24, 22, almost 2 years ago. The war in Europe broke out.
Yeah.
And I started to think about the implication. And it's, you know, the COVID in and out, who knows what's going to happen in China, in Taiwan, who knows what's going to happen in the Middle East, Europe, et cetera, et cetera. And you say, you know what, we are arguably facing one of the biggest perfect storms in modern history, geopolitically and macroeconomically. And the outcome is that it will dictate to organizations to make a clear separation between nice to have versus must have. Whatever is perceived to be nice to have, forget about it. I don't have time for cosmetic surgery. I have to stay alive. And I realize, as much as I'm proud of the technology we develop and the solution we have, I may be considered, rightly or wrongly, perception is reality, if I like it or not, as nice to have. And you know, in psychology, there's the Maslow pyramid of needs. So I created the Iola. From Iola's perspective, Maslow's perspective, which are the verticals which are immune to the shenanigans of the world? Doesn't matter what's going on in the world, we have to eat, food industry. Unfortunately, you have to take our medication. Pharma, logistics, supply chain, supercritical, energy, semiconductor, you can identify. So I decided to apply our entire technology to must-have verticals on critical processes where we can demonstrate quantifiable ROI at scale. That was the blueprint. And I worked very closely with McKinsey for many, many years. So I'm very well connected to many of the Fortune 1000 companies. And I spoke to a Fortune 60 company, food manufacturer. And I said, when you start your day, you just flip the button and start production. I said, oh, of course not. I have to complete this highly regulated pre-op inspection. And that's 20 pages, 4:30 in the morning. A group of inspectors have to do it. And I said, production is idle for those 2 hours? And say, yes. I said, well, what if we're going to turn the entire process, speech-based, hands-free, paperless, they're going to walk and talk. And he love it because I say, one, it's going to be way more efficient. Second, it's going to be safer. Third, it's going to be smarter. Fourth, it's going to be collaborative. And now going back to your question, I believe I can use whatever automatic speech recognition off the shelf. They decided to do the pilot in Australia. They sent me a recording. I put it on one of the very best off the shelf, one of the companies you mentioned previously. And I could not believe when the accuracy we got was only 52%. First, I thought maybe it's the Aussie accent. Well, while it didn't help, that was not the reason. Same acoustic environment, solvable. What turns out, and I'm getting to the point, more than 50% of the vocabulary was not English, was jargon. And that's when I realized we don't need to talk about Six Nations. We don't need to talk about weather. We don't need to talk about the rain or anything else. Every process is 2,000, 3,000 words max. More than 50% is vocabulary. And if I can build a language model that automatically will take care of the jargon, will take care of, fresh example, last week, we're speaking for one of the largest tire manufacturers in the world from South Korea. And basically what I'm pitching about the idea we're doing, the CIO gets online and he says, listen, you're preaching to the choir. I'm putting words in his mouth right now. We realize that speech is the easiest way to communicate. We wanted to turn as much as we can from our processes to speech first. And we took every platform off the shelf and I can put numbers on what your gut told you about accuracy. And the maximum accuracy we were able to get in Korea was 60%. So I don't know if it's because of its Korean or accent or acoustic environment, but 60% is like zero. I cannot use it. So first of all, thank you. Because one, I don't need to convince you about the need. You were smarter than us. You thought about it in 2018. Second, I don't need to tell you how difficult it is. You tested every possible system. Is that correct? So let me show what I do difference. Unfortunately, I don't speak Korean. None of my team members speaks Korean. We took a recording in Korean, highly jargonized. We ran it on one of those platforms, and we ran it on our own platform. And yes, we got 59% accuracy, very similar to your 60%. But when we ran it in ours, not only that we get higher accuracy, we got 93% before training, we actually realized that it's not about transcribing. It's about separating the noise from the signal. So actually, we developed a technology that deals with keyword spotting. So even when I'm able to transcribe what you say very, very accurately, I'm less interested about what you had for lunch or what you had for dinner. I'm more interested about the critical data which I need for my process. And that's really and when I showed him it was 93%, he said, 60% is 0, 90% is 100, okay? That's the difference. Mm-hmm. And therefore, what we saw as a challenge, you and I, in experience in the daily business, we view as an opportunity. And rather than boiling the ocean, we solve it specifically, automatically to one flow or process at a time with accuracy, which is north of 95%.
Okay. And is it also a learning environment, as in if it comes across a jargon term, for example, that doesn't recognize, does it kick it out to somewhere to report and say, came across this term, not sure what it is. Can you teach me this so I'll know for the next time?
So first of all, the beauty of it, it's a learning system. Okay. So it's machine learning of machine learning. Okay. So it's constantly improving. And as the jargon progresses, we learn more and more. Keep in mind, by the way, sometimes we get very excited about the speech component, but we forget this is just the first step. Meaning, it's really I'll put the 4 blocks, it's really from speech to data to action to impact. Okay. So when I'm doing it right now and taking care of the speech, now I can get 95 or north of 95% accuracy. Now I have better data than I had before. That was previously uncaptured and unstructured data. That unique raw material all of a sudden allows me to get better insights and intelligence. That will allow me to make better decisions. So therefore, this is a chain event that starts from being able to capture speech. And in every step along the way, you have quantifiable ROI, because now I completed the entire pre-op inspection, which was previously 2 hours when the production was idle. Now that it's speech-based, hands-free, paperless, when I walk and talk, the entire process is completed in 1 hour. So without adding a single person or a single piece of equipment for this razor-thin margin industry, we just give another hour of production. That's dramatic. Second, that raw material now connected, and all of a sudden we say, oh, you know what? You produce a specific product as the first product of the day for the last 30 years because that's the way you conduct your business, but actually the data is screaming that that specific product leaves a lot of residue, takes longer to clean. That should be the last product of the day. We don't know what we don't know. So all of a sudden, that raw material allows us to illuminate, allow us to see things we never able to see before, and that's the beauty of it. So this is the beginning of it, but it's a learning system. So whenever you face a new challenge, and not only that, dynamic changes. It's not just the accuracy or the efficiency, which is very important, but now you can connect the dots beyond what the human eye can see or beyond what the human brain can process. And it's no longer just in this production line in Queensland, Australia. Now it's connected to all the different factories in Australia, Oceania, and then it connects to all the factories in Southeast Asia. And then you can connect the dots and identify trends before they actually form. So that ability now takes us, again, this is really almost to the place that, it's a very philosophical question. I'm not sure we're going to step into this meeting, but that's going to influence the future of work because everything is going to be smarter. Everything is going to be, it's all about data. And what we're doing here, we're addressing data. So now the super powerful AI tools can take it to the next level. But it's a known fact that until now, most of the data in the world is still not part of the game because it's uncaptured and unstructured. We took care of that part.
Okay. Can you give me, you've mentioned the food processor already, but can you give me a few more use cases? And bear in mind that this is the Sustainable Supply Chain podcast. So a sustainability hook would be nice to have. We're all familiar with speech to computer. We've all seen Star Trek and, Picard going computer tea, Earl Grey hot, and out comes his nice hot cup of tea. But let's try and bring it down to something a little more concrete and a sustainability win or two.
Perfect. So, when we speak about sustainability, I don't like to talk about greenwash. Okay.
Good.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about, the feathers or whatever clothes we put on top. It's really about the bottom line. And we have to do things better. Again, sustainability, it's not a trend, it's reality. Yep. And that's something that we constantly have to strive and see how whatever we do, how can it help us to make it more sustainable, more efficient, cleaner, greener, healthier, etc. And that's a major consideration. One of the things, speaking to the pharma industry, which now we're deeply involved with, I remember talking to one of the largest pharma companies in the world. He quizzed me and he said, do you know what we do over here? I said, oh, of course, you research and develop and produce. He said, no, we chop woods. We cut more trees than any other industries because the paper process in the pharma industry is far superior to anything. He said, we have some unique situation where we have a drug which is highly needed in the field, fully produced and not released because the paperwork was not completed. Okay, the shelves are empty, people are dying. You need it, but until all the paperwork, with highly regulated, all of a sudden try to imagine you're taking all this paper, which goes nowhere, by the way. So they generate this paper and goes nowhere. So from 100% paper, which is very non-sustainable, and turn all of this to green knowledge. Okay, so all of that, first of all, is captured much faster, digitized, connected to dots. And not only that, because this is an industry that has to be highly regulated, it's the easiest access to slice and dice it from every possible angle and audit it from any way. It's not going back to the old files. So starting for small things like that. But taking to the next level, because connecting sustainability to logistics, I'm dealing right now with one of the largest beverage manufacturers in the world. And they have forklifts in their warehouse operations that are running 24/7. And there's a list of challenges where they're facing. They have to stop, fill up a paper form, and I have a measurement that I got from them, how long it takes them sitting idle and waiting for resolution versus now we help them to install a vehicle-mounted tablet. They're talking to the vehicle-mounted tablet and everything is solved in real time. So the efficiency, in every industry, you have those 3 letters or 4 letters KPI. In their specific industry, it's called PPLH, which is pallets per labor hour. And all of a sudden, it jumped by 40% because of that. So this is just one example in that one area, but we have multiple. So from shortening production time, turning paper to green knowledge, being able to make a lot of smarter decisions. So the utilization of spare parts, because now you can predict better, okay? You don't need to send, generators on the other side of the world. So the key there, really the 4 key words is about being more efficient, being safer, because actually you can spend more time looking at equipment versus looking at the clipboard. Third is the key component, working smarter because of the raw material we just collected. And fourth, working collaboratively. So now it's no longer just, narrow tunnel vision, just this production. Now I can look at a regional, global view, plan better, be way more efficient. All of that connected directly to quantifiable sustainability gains.
Okay, good. Talk to me a little bit as well about the process, because it's one thing for me as a forklift operator, for example, to say something to a tablet on my forklift, but what happens to that text once I've said it to the tablet? I mean, it's an audio file, a WAV file, or an MP3 or something. What does the AI do to it? I mean, does it just convert it to text? And if so, what happens to the text once it's in text format? So I'm guessing it goes into some kind of, it's structured somehow, and then does that kick off actions? Walk me through that. What's the process there?
It's a great question. I'll take you one step even further, because at the end of the day, I can speak for myself. I've been a disruptor my entire career. I enjoy very much to disrupt. But Tom, it took me maybe too long to realize that most people in the world don't like to be disrupted. Okay? And that's when I had to eat a little bit of a humble pie and listen more. Okay? And one of the key things I learned is, especially when I work with one of the largest management consulting companies that come with digital, if I'm going to hear those two words one more time, digital transformation, I'm going to get an allergic reaction all over my body. Okay? And it's not just me, many organizations. And the key there is to respect, meaning if you have a process, if you have a very successful operation for the last 30 or 50 or 100 years, you must do something right, number one. And I'm never going to learn what you already forgot about your business. So respect it. So I'm not here to move the cheese. I'm not here to disrupt what you do. I'm here to respect what you do, but I'm here to enhance and augment the existing processes. And that's a key philosophical approach here. This is a non-threatening approach. I'm here to help you. And it's what's not to like? If I'm going to help you to be more efficient, safer, smarter, collaborative, but doing the same thing. So what we have done, we respect existing processes. And if we have a paper process right now that you do on a fill of form, we will be automatically be able to digitize that form at any Android or iOS device. And I'll give you a very great example. One of the largest logistic companies in the world has more than 100,000 vehicles. Every morning starts with a process. It's a 40-point checklist. That checklist has even a very ambitious title. It's called a 60 seconds quick look audit. Okay. So 2 things. I asked them, 1, where this data going to? Nowhere. Okay, file cabinet. 2nd, I know it sounds stupid, but how long does it take you to do the so-called 60 seconds quick look audit? And start laughing, and I say 15 to 20 minutes. Okay. Tom, 3 weeks later, they got a URL, an address, that they click on the Android device or iOS device. That opens up the very same form they've been used to fill the paper. I became the pen, okay? And now all I have to do, and actually to complete the entire process that took 15 to 20 minutes on 52 seconds on average. And now the information is flying from 100,000 vehicles on the right time, and you see how the tires behave in Miami versus how they behave in North Dakota. So at the end of the day is we stick to the process they're very familiar with. We digitize it, we automate it, the information will fly. I was talking to the American healthcare system, as you're probably aware, is broken. Mm-hmm. And with the aging society right now, home healthcare become a major, major issue. And I've been tasked by one of the giants of our time in the industry, very large company, very well-known figure, which healthcare is very dear to his life. And when I showed him what we are doing a few months ago, he said, can you take a home healthcare practitioner use case, a nurse that drives to you, to provide oxygen, to provide dialysis, and it's a highly strict process, highly regulated. We were able to do the entire process in the same format, in the same form, but everything by speech, from taking vitals to what is the catalog number of the oxygen tank I just exchanged, to how many hours I drove, how much I paid for the tolls, and what's the observation of the patient behavior. think about it. It's way beyond. And what I really like about what we're doing here, I had a conversation last week with one of the leading VCs. Say, Amir, in one end, you broke the barrier, the speech barrier that nobody was able to do to take it to the accuracy that we didn't experience before. Second, it's extremely simple. You can use it on any Android or iOS device. Third, it's wide open horizontally, which means it's not built for a specific vertical or specific process. So that triangle of bleeding edge technology that applied in simplest form on any device by any user on any vertical, and we're getting to the point that we're starting that the first client, it took us 4 months to build a language model.
Right.
The second clients, we did it in 2 months. Now we're doing that in days. By June, it's going to take hours. But not only that, by June, we will be able to empower our clients to do it on their own. And later on this year, we're actually getting to the point that's going to be completely self-serve. So you go online and you click language, form, language recording, attached, languages to get it, great, click submit, and 24 to 36 hours, you have an automatic language model that build automatically for your process, for your workflow. And that's really what gets us excited, because it's truly subjectively transformational.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's not just that you've created a new user interface, it's that you're also capturing data that was never captured before and allowing people to get new insights based on that. Can you also kick off actions?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll give you an example. We work right now with one of the largest cruise liners in the world. Think about it. The cruise liner is a it's a modern Tower of Babylon. Okay? They got more than 100 nationalities working on the ship. I remember one of the science fiction movie, there was a tool called
Babelfish. Yeah,
yes, Babelfish. You remember that was
Guide to the Galaxy.
The Galaxy, exactly right. So think about it, what a vision, huh? Many, many years ago when that book was written, and now we're actually doing it. Okay? Yeah. So we're flattening the language barrier. And the key there is, I'll give an example. One of the safety checks they're doing right now with Iola is the equipment. So like checking all the life jackets. And let's assume for argument's sake that 24 jackets are missing. It's not enough to block the voyage and cancel the trip. But this is something that has to be fixed. So basically you build the logic around it that you send automatic alert to everybody who needs to be informed. We are 24 jackets short. You have 2 weeks to fix it. And after a week, it sends alerts. It haven't been fixed. All the right people. If this is not going to be fixed by the 30th of the month, you will not be able to get to pull your anchor and go to the sea again. So this is a simple logical component, but you can do way more than that. So basically, we have a client right now in the CPG retail, consumer packaged goods, and they have to measure temperature of the food goods inside the refrigerator. If the meat goes bad, if the temperature is not right, has huge significance and ramification. So if the temperature drops below a certain degree, automatic alert, okay, to everybody who needs to do it. So I love that part because once you have the data, and the only way to have the data is to get structured data. The only way to get structured data is to solve the speech problem. So that's the chain reaction. But once you have the data, you can do a lot of beautiful things, including putting whatever logic from alerts to action to measurable impact that directly connected to your EBITDA.
Okay, and can I also pipe that data into my ERP application or my whatever else it is?
Beautiful, because that's one of the things. We are not isolated. We don't live on an island. And one of the things we have to respect is many organizations have many different CRMs or ERP or data management system or platforms. And actually it can go both ways. I was talking to one of the leading IoT technology providers in the world, and the chief strategy officer gave me a great quote that I asked her permission to use. And I say, in an IoT revolution, one voice was left out, the human voice. And actually, Amir, you're turning every single person on the floor to a super smart IoT sensor. Okay, let's look at it this way. But going back to what you just asked, Tom, yes. So 2 things. One, everything we do is simply interfaced into the backend system. When I work with that cruise liner and I show him demos with other clients, he said, hey, I'm IT. Can I become your client? I said, what do you mean? He said, can we open a ticket, an IT ticket by speech? I said, sure. Can we do it by French? Sure. Can you integrate to ServiceNow because that's the backend system? Sure. A week later, they're now opening up ticket by speech integrated to ServiceNow. Now, if I flip it around, think about if I'm ServiceNow or Oracle or BMC or whatever, and because at the end of the day, what's flying to their veins? Data. It doesn't matter how great the data management systems are, they need the data in order to do it. Mm-hmm. If they can now create an OEM feature which enables their clients to capture the data more accurately, faster, richer, and deeper, it's win-win-win across the board. So yes, we can interface to whatever you have. You can add it as a feature to the data management system so they can acquire it. You can add it as a feature as an OEM to IoT, but everything has to play in harmony and connect to whatever the clients have in place through a simple API.
Okay. And where to next? I mean, what are your plans for, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road from now?
So one of the things, as you can tell by now, we're not that smart, meaning we know about our technology, but I don't understand the verticals. I'm learning as we move. So when I presented for the first time to the supermarket chain, honestly, I didn't see where's the fit for our technology because I don't know enough about that industry. By the time I finished a general session talking about the art of the possible in AI, their CIO flipped his tablet and showed me 10 potential use cases where this can be used. Wow. So he started by us going fishing, if you will, because, hey, I have the technology but after having 2 clients in logistics, 2 clients in transportation, 2 clients in CPG, I can already build a library of a no-brainer use cases because I'm always looking for 3 things where I can bring the greatest impact at the shortest period of time with a minimum obstacle possible. Because we all know success breeds success, and you need to overcome a psychological barrier. So the point here where I'm seeing myself is going from being a generalist that trying to learn about the world and use cases, now being able to frame it and say, okay, if you come to a specific industry, here's the library of 10 use cases. You're going to impact your business, choose the one that you need, take it to the next level, because so far, most, if not all, our clients are Fortune 50, Fortune 100, Fortune 500. But it's a true opportunity to democratize, which meaning tomorrow morning I can hit mid-size and then small size in any geography, in any language. And actually, we talk about the revolution that AI brings to the table, but AI and ML are amazing tools, but just tools. Unless we have the data, they can be always limited by who can use it, for what to use it, and how impact it can generate. We're taking care of that last mile, and that's really what excites us. So the next few steps for us is to frame it, to create a simple way I don't need to learn. The system automatically will serve with a library of use cases where you can quantify and measure ROI, and then offer it to all, across sizes, across languages, across cultures. And I think, again, Tom, I think it goes way beyond business. It's really going to flatten the way we communicate. It's going to flatten and democratize. And when I talk about it, I'll get very, very passionate because it's happening. And the time that took us before, any revolution took many, many years. Now, because of the compute power, because of unit economics, because a lot of the advancement that made, we can do things way faster. And more than anything else, measure it, quantify it. And there's so many boardrooms right now where the board comes to management and say, hey, what are we doing with AI? And the ability to turn around and say, actually, we use AI to increase our sales, or we're using AI to decrease our cost, or we're doing AI to increase our safety and work smarter. I love it because that's taken it from the hype AI to a very practical, pragmatic AI. And that's what we're doing.
Sure. Amir, we're coming towards the end of the podcast now. Is there any question I did not ask that you wish I did, or any aspect of this we haven't touched on that you think it's important for people to think about?
So first of all, you did a very good job, and I enjoyed very much the session. Thank you for a very, very enjoyable session. But I think more than anything else, I think you don't know what you don't know, which means especially we've been used to doing things in certain ways. And one of the things that I'm a very curious person. I'm an infomaniac. I never learn enough. I have so much useless information back here. But all of a sudden, we have the ability to challenge ourselves and be open-minded. So the key there is really to build that confidence that regardless of how mature you are and how big or small your organization, actually now with this technology and then capturing the data, you can shift the way you conduct business. And I think this is a huge opportunity. It's a massive opportunity, way bigger than Iola, way bigger than just our technology, to change everything we do about our lives. And I think this is really it's a truly transformational experience. And very rarely it happens when the topic is top of mind. Look at VC's investment right now. Globally, they're all going like this, with one exception. Anything AI goes like this.
Yeah.
And so it's the timing, it's the technology, but all of that connected to quantifiable impact. And if you can demonstrate that, then that's easy. Because at the end of the day, whatever we do, when I go to a client and clients say, oh, this is incredible, how much it costs? That's the first question. And my answer is, I don't care. Of course I care. But I'm not chasing price. I'm chasing value. And if there's no value to generate, trust me, I don't want your money. I don't want to waste my time. But if I'm going to generate value, I'm going to take my fair share. I say, fair enough. So first of all, I love that because it's not vendorship, it's partnership. It's not me versus you. It's you and me together chasing value. And I love that part.
Nice. Great. Amir, if people would like to know more about yourself or any of the things we discussed on the podcast today, where would you have me direct them?
So simple enough. Again, one of the things we definitely love to share more. There's a lot to be shared beyond what we just had time to expose during this wonderful podcast. So iola.com is our website. You can find me over there. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I'm always doing my best. When you live in a kibbutz, in a community in Israel, you can be very smart or very stupid. That's okay. You can be good looking and ugly, no problem whatsoever. But if somebody will say that you're either lazy or selfish, you're doomed. So the two areas that I'm always making sure that nobody consider me being selfish or lazy. So therefore, when anyone that asks me for more information and he politely asks me for help, trust me, I made so many mistakes. If I can avoid you stepping on some of the landmines I did, I'll be blessed. And so short answer is happy to share more, happy to address people's questions. And it's very easy to find me on our website, on LinkedIn, and I'm at their disposal.
Fantastic. Amir, that's been really interesting. Thanks a million for coming on the podcast today.
Pleasure. Thank you, Tom.